All right, we're going to do a quick tutorial on our new light board, which is right here, or this camera is right behind me. I think you can see it on that camera. I don't know. And then hopefully you'll be able to see what happens with the lights with that camera. So we'll see. All right, the very basics of turning on this board, and there's a piece of paper behind me here. Well, actually, get out of the way. Right there, this piece of paper, and that piece of paper tells you how to turn on the basic lights for the sanctuary. You know, for whatever reason, somebody is coming here, like our cleaning crew. They've got to turn the sanctuary lights on, be able to see, and that all runs through our new digital board. So very simple. There is stickers labeling the board here on with an arrow, and at the very back of this board, you kind of have to get underneath our new monitor here, which that monitor also shows some stuff on this board, and there's a little tiny, like, you have to reach in between wires. They don't make it easy to turn these things on, but there's a little button, and it's a little click, and you press that one time, and the system will take a second to boot up, but it will boot up. It's basically a computer, so it takes a second, and then you'll get the screen right here. And then usually we have left up one of the slides that run the house lights. So if you're wanting to make sure the house lights are on, you want slide number 20, which is labeled house. There's also a house up slider over here on this right side. It's got a number 1 on the top of it. It says house, and that actually will fade the house lights up slowly, and that's something we can use during service and stuff. Is kind of why it's there. But number 20 will always turn the house lights on those sanctuary chandeliers. So that's how you turn the system on. Now, to turn it off, it's not just a switch to turn off. If you just pull that slider down, it will turn off the lights, but it doesn't turn off our board. And we want to make sure our board is turned off with that. So you can leave all of the lights on the board. That's not going to affect anything. In fact, I like to leave it that way, so when you do fire it back on, the sanctuary lights come back on automatically. And so what you'll do is you'll go and you'll see here on the board there's a sticker that says off with a little arrow here, and this screen is a touch screen, kind of like an iPad. And so you want to click these little 3 lines to the top right, and then it'll give you a drop down menu that you can probably see there, and then you want to click where it says shutdown. You click shutdown, and then it brings up the little box saying power off, stop software, and power off console. And you just simply press the power off button, and it will shut down. And then, oh wait, the lights haven't gone off. Well, the lights in the sanctuary will take roughly 15 to 20 seconds to dim down until they're completely off. So you'll see those, actually you'll see them in this camera, and you'll see them in that camera if I have that stuck in there magically in the video. You'll see, yeah, now the lights are starting to fade down, and they will fade down to off. And so now this board is off, all the lights are off, and we're okay. So that's how you turn the board on and off. Now let's go into and turn our board back on, and this monitor here, it actually runs 3 things, and we get a visual of what's on our projector screens from our iMac here behind me, which runs our Pro Presenter software, which is all of our, anything that's on the screen is this machine right here running it. It also runs our live stream capability through a Mac Mini, which is kind of tucked away over here, that camera is hooked into. And so on a Sunday morning, this is getting the live stream feed, and you're seeing and editing it live right there. But when we're setting up the board, we can also shift this thing. There's buttons on the back here. You push the second button from the bottom, and that will give you this dialog box. Third button from the bottom to shift, and it's HDMI 2. And then the very top button will select, and that will give us a look at this board right here. So now you'll see this screen has turned, and it'll look pretty much similar to the touch screen that you're seeing from that view there. So I use this for when we're setting up the lights for, say, a Sunday morning. I'm going to go ahead and pull these house lights down so you're not blinded right there. So I'll go ahead and slide these guys down, and we'll start making our changes, and I'll show you how we set up a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night, because what we want to do ahead of time is we want to pre-program the lights so that you're not having to really fiddle with stuff during the service that's distracting, that you're just basically just pressing one button. It's basically a play button right here on the board, and I'll show you actually where we have that from the last service. So right here is our Q stack. This is our Q stack slide. You can click here, and on your touch screen it'll show you what we have in this Q stack, and right now we have 4. This is left over from Wednesday, and we had a welcome coloration. We had one that's labeled announcements, and we can label them whatever we want to label them. It's just so we had a welcome and announcements. We have a hymns, and then one labeled preach or sermon or whatever. So it's all the different looks that we pre-programmed in, and so when we pull this Q stack up, it is going to light up our lights the way we have pre-programmed them. And so, with the exception of the cross you actually have to turn on. Behind this monitor there is an actual light switch, and it's kind of awkward to get to, but we pull that one up, and that'll turn the baptistry lights on and the cross lights on, and you have to turn that switch on and off. Actually, when the board shuts down, if that switch is still on, the cross will stay lit up, but you won't have color, control of it. This was our first look, our welcome look, which generally for the welcome look I do full house lights, the sanctuary lighting. I do a little bit of background wall lights. In this case they're blue, and we have a little bit of an effect both on our outside spots and our inside middle bar lights. Our cross, I think, has got, it's got a little bit of an effect, because you can see what's happening as the colors change on those couple of lights. And then what we do not have that we usually have is we don't have any of our center stage lighting on right now. None of our color stage lighting. That's what that looks like right there. And they're all labeled, and the position, like each one of these little boxes, is a light. And what that corresponds to is kind of where that light shines on the stage. And it's labeled as such. Like we've got one light over here labeled piano left, organ right. You've got right stage color, right color, choir right color, choir left color. So it's the different spots where the lights up in the ceiling will hit on the stage to kind of give you a better understanding here what's going to happen there. Okay, so like our first cue here is on welcome, and now to change that to the next cue, we have a nice 5-second fade built in, and so when we press this button, it will go to our next cue, which is our announcements. And usually there I kind of make it a little more subtle. We're not doing crazy lights in the background, and we're trying not to be distracting, right? We don't want to be distracting with our lights. We just want to use the lights to add ambience, right? So there's our announcements. That's what it looked like. And so we drop to our hymns, and so our hymn setting, it adds in those choir color lights, which puts color on the back wall and into the choir loft, which is a good effect for changing the color. And then we have our bar lights with a little bit of a fade effect, and then our spotlights on the side with a minimal fade effect. And we've also brought down our house lights a little bit, and also we have incorporated these center stage lights for Tim or for our pastor, whoever's up there. You want the light up there on that pulpit area. So that's what we have set up for that one. And then on a Sunday morning, we usually have a contemporary set, which drops the house lights completely down, and you get to see a lot more of that color on the back wall that really pops when you change the color there. Then the last one here is our preach, and so that brings the house lights back up to a full, and kind of makes the background lights, I'd like to have them a little more minimal, definitely nothing moving or changing, just a nice solid background, because you want it to look good for the people here, but also for the camera where we're live streaming. We want to kind of offset the speaker and the worship leader from the background. We don't want them to blend in and camouflage them. So it just adds a little bit of that coloring in that. Now there is one other color change thing we do have in here that's not connected to our board, and that's actually our baptistry lights. There's baptistry lights, and then the lights on the side walls. This, I don't know if you can see it right here, but there's a white little switch right here. Actually, it's magnetized, so it pulls off. It's a little remote. Looks like this. It lives over here on the wall. And so when we press that top on button a couple of times, it'll cycle through colors. If the wall lights are on, it'll also cycle them through colors. There's an app, it's called the Hue app, that's also on the iMac, and you can put it on, you know, a smartphone or whatever, to change the color of the lights. Or if the lights are off on the side walls, it's easy to change the baptistry lights, because we don't always, you know, make the wall lights. Unless you want the wall lights to do something special, then you can. But usually the baptistry lights, we make them a color that coordinates well, or kind of like our stock pink. It's kind of, let's see, where's our stock pink at? Right there. So that's kind of our first setting on the cross, is that pink, you know, pink church. All right. So that's the basics of what kind of a service looks like. Is we have it pre-programmed, so all you're doing is pressing this button. If, say, you need to go back, there's little arrows here on the touch screen. So we're in preach mode. If I wanted to go back to the hymn setting, I can click that back arrow, and it's got the timer. And we can change the fade timer. I like 5 seconds. I kind of found is the best. It's not jarring. You definitely don't want it to be 0, because then it'll just go and the lights will change really fast, and that's just distracting. You want the lights to flow and not be distracting, but you know, to you know, help the visuals. Now, you may notice in the camera, and you may have noticed worshiping, that sometimes our sanctuary lights in the chandeliers, they flicker, right? And that's just an issue that we have because we've upgraded to LED bulbs, which are basically the top of the line LED bulbs, but our dimmers just, they don't play super well nice with them sometimes. And so sometimes it gives that flicker effect, which is obnoxious, and I hate it. And that's why we have this magical slide right here, this number 1 slide, which says house up on the board here. And so if it's for whatever reason, like if we've got the lights pulled mostly down or half down or just a little down, they start to flicker, and it's just distracting, and it's just like, I need to go back to full lights. You can run this slide all the way up, and what it'll do is it will slowly fade those lights back up, because when they're at full blast, they don't flicker, usually. Sometimes they do. But that slide is what I throw up. Or at the end of the service, when people are leaving, I usually throw that slide up and pull our Q-stack slide back down. So it leaves the house lights on, but it pulls our stage lighting down, and just kind of starts to close things down, okay? So we'll pull our Q-stack down. Now, when we pull our Q-stack down, our house is still up, so it's pulled down all the lights this board controls, with the exception of the house up. And when you pull this one down, it'll turn the lights down as fast as you pull this. I guess it fades it down. So it fades it back down. Good. Let's see here. That's basically it for the basics of the Q-stack. But what I'm about to do is I'm about to set up a new Q-stack for Sunday morning. So what we're going to do for that is we have to learn a little bit more about the board. This board, they make it in 3 levels of our lights. They have the fixture level, which is right here in the mode. They have the group level, and then the Q level. Usually, like the Q, that just basically each one of these buttons changes what these sliders do. The fixtures is the basic, each lamp individually. The groups are preset groups where we have these things grouped into different things in different areas, and those are what the white little labels are on these sliders. So you have to be like, and you can see on the board, it's fixed right now is in green. So if we hit group, it'll hit group. This board is touchscreen. So let's go home. Let's get this Q-stack look. This is what home looks like. This is what going backwards looks like, right? There's lots of buttons. So click that home home button that brings us back to this screen. So fixtures, if one of these lights is blinking, just pull it up, pull it back down, and it'll stop blinking. It's just because it's not happy. So fixtures is individual lamps. So each one of these little boxes is an individual lamp. And so if you want to control, say, the piano, which is number 6, look, there's the piano light, and you can pull it down. The only problem with the fixtures, and I don't know why, it's just whatever it is, right? If you're using fixtures to control lights, to bring it all the way back down, the slider won't do it. It just won't. So you can use the touch screen here, and you can click number 6 and see it turns green here and here. And you've got these controls up here where it says 100 and 0. If you hit 0, it turns the light off. You hit 100, it puts it at full blast. So if you're in fixture mode, that's really the only way to get that thing changed off. I use group mode for most everything because your group mode is going to help you out in what you're doing, because we've got the lights pretty much set to where we want them to be and most useful. Okay, so groups, and you can click right here. There's a fixture tab with nothing, and then right now we've got our groups that are labeled there, so you can kind of see, like, and you can scroll it this way, and you can see all these different things labeled pretty much the same way they are on the board in our groups. The Q label, these are things like, say we want to, like right now, we've been recording a Sunday night worship for online only, so I can go and I can save all the lights a certain look and save it as just a Q. You can't move this Q to the Q stack. I wish you could. That would make life easy. But you can save the lights for a certain look, so for special events and stuff, it's really easy to save the lights, and you can like flip from different Qs if you want to and things like that. So there's just some pre-programs that usually they get overwritten a lot, different colors, different effects, things that we saved in there. So Qs, don't use Qs very often, and Qs won't record for whatever reason. I don't know why. Like, you can't save a Q and then re-record that Q somewhere else. It just doesn't work, but you can with groups and fixtures. Okay, so say we're going to set up our lights for Sunday morning. We make sure everything is off, nothing is blinking, and we're going to click groups, make sure that's selected. So now our groups are selected, and you may notice there's a slight different color. Those are just the colored lights we have up there in the ceiling. The bar lights, they don't look like that. Same thing with here, right? So this is all color up here, and all of these ones that look a little more yellower, color lights. A lot of times I make sure and kind of coordinate the slides we have for Sunday morning with the color that we're going to see on the stage. So we have a couple of different looks, and so we're probably going to do some colors. And so what we're going to do with those is we need to have welcome lights, so some color splashed on the wall with full house lights, some announcement lights where we and that's very similar usually to the welcome lights. I basically just add the pulpit lights, and if the lights are going crazy in the background, I kind of tame that down just a little bit. And then we move into some hymn lights. So usually I'm bringing the house lights down to about 75% power and adding some color on the choir and maybe just a little bit of effect depending on the song. Contemporary lights, where the house lights are completely off, and may change the color from the hymns depending on how the service goes. And then lights for the sermon, where the lights, house lights are completely back up, and with mild lights on the back. And then I sometimes will leave that be, or sometimes we can add an invitation set in there where the lights dim back down a little bit. So that's, sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. It's usually what Tim wants to do. So let's go ahead and make, and I'll show you kind of what we can do. So let's go ahead and make some welcome lights. So for our welcome lights, let's go ahead and we're going to have, I'll leave the house lights down so you can see the camera a little bit better. We'll do those last because we know our house lights are going to be on full. But let's go ahead and let's do our bar lights first, okay? So what we have here is we have, this one is all the white lights that are on stage, all the color lights that are on stage. So that's all our white lights. This is all of our color lights in the ceiling. This is all of our wall lights put together. This is our cross. Those are just the choir lights. This is the two lights in the ceiling aiming on the back wall. Just the piano, just the organ. This is stage color lights. So they're kind of downward pointed right now on our stage. This is pulpit color lights, which we don't use very often. I used them the other day and Tim was completely red during a song. It's pretty funny. Center lights, these are the 4 center white lights. And then we get, these are the front center lights. So that's the front of the pulpit. And then we have the back of the pulpit. Bars, it's the 4 bar lights that we have on the wall back there, which are very versatile with effects. And so this one we'll be using in a second. Then we have one labeled spots in. So those are the 2 spots that kind of, right now they're kind of pointed at the corner of our projector screens, but they're on the insides. And then we have our spots outs, which are the next one over. So you have your spots in right there and your spots outs right there. So we use both of those. And then we've got a couple else right now because we had extra spaces on the board. So I did one with all of our left lights, all of our right lights. Haven't used, that slide yet. This one is every light, in case you wanted to use every light. You've got the stage cans, which, they're not working right now. That's fascinating. I haven't used them in so long, they just stopped working. Interesting. I wonder if that might be an issue in the back. And then we have our house lights, which is on group 20, fixture 20, Q20. So in either any of those 3 modes, those house lights will come on. So that is not going to be an issue. You do need to make sure that this button up here, like I put a sticker there, it says keep up. It's the master lights, right? So if you have the house lights up, if you pull this guy down, the lights are going to be off. So that one, just leave it all the way up. It's got a blackout button, but it's just a toggle button. So if you wanted the lights to go off really fast, or it's just you press it, there's not a hold. So nothing, right? It's just on and off. So we don't use that button. Now that we've gone through the basics of our different lights that are grouped together, let's go ahead and make a sample package for Sunday morning. Okay, so we're going to start, I like to start with the bar lights, and for the welcome lights, I like them at full, and so I'm going to click those, and what it's going to do is you'll see they'll light up green, right? So those lights are now selected. If I want to deselect those lights and select other lights, let's see, when I click these spots, it's going to keep them selected. So when you're changing color and stuff, you want to make sure you know what you have selected, what's unselected. Otherwise, you'll be like, all right, you'll get a set the way you want it, and then you'll accidentally change it. So we've got our bar lights up at full, and then we have some options here, intensity. And so what that does is that kind of gives you an overview again of the different lights and what's going on with them. So I don't use that one very often home to go back. Position, our lights don't move, so that button doesn't do anything. Beam, for those, not really going to do anything for you. But what these lights do is color. And so when you click on color, it brings you to this color wheel. And so you can make these lights change any color you want them to be with this color wheel. You can actually use this guy here. Well, actually, you'll see the little tick move. So this is, left is white, more color, it's your saturation, and then your hue. That's going to change your color if you use the spinny wheel, or you can use your finger, move it around. So you want orange, you want yellow, green, blue, whatever. Or there's preset colors up here. You can, do that. There's also these different Lee gels. So there's a plethora of colors. How close they are to this, it's just, what you got is options, is presets. So usually I'm just using the color picker and effects. So let's go to our effects and for our welcome lights, and we can kind of do some stuff here. Let's click random color. right there, and so that gives us almost a rainbow effect, but it's working off of that base color that we had picked last, which was like a brown color. So if we go back up here and click blue, and then click random color, it'll do different things, and sometimes it'll do what you want it to do, and sometimes it'll give you crazy things, and it's just something you got to look with and play with the different options, like where it gives you different things, and it'll give you different looks, and then if you pick a different base color, it'll give you different looks also. So say we want to do, it's definitely not what I want to do. Let's go with this color right here. Let's go with it. And what we'll do with this is, now that we have, we'll go with that magenta and this RBG random, so it gives us this kind of rainbowy color that you're seeing there. And so what we have is this little slider here, as my phone rings. This little slider here, which will change kind of how big that color change is. So we can kind of slide it up with our finger here, or slide it down and make it a very minimal change. So now you see it's very minimal, but if we pull it back up, it's going to make it more kind of thicker there, and that's kind of what that does. It changes the size on those lights. And then right here, this one is the one I use all the time, is speed, because I don't like lights to move that fast. I like lights that are subtle. Unless I need them to be crazy, I want the lights to be, not distracting, but subtle. So I want to fire the speed, and I want to pull the speed down a lot. You'll see this touchscreen's fun, huh? So we'll drop that down to like 6.7 beats per minute, and so it looks kind of like that. And I don't want that crazy a rainbow color. Let's drop the size down a little bit, like that. So that kind of gives us a look there like that. So it's kind of stair-steppy. Not my favorite, but hey, it's lights. Okay, so there's those lights, and now I want to work our spots. The spots they hit the screen, and we'll actually be having announcement screens going like while that's happening. So I usually want the spot in not to be overbearing on the corner of the screen. So I usually do about halfway of the spots in. Spot out can go at full. It also kind of gives it a little bit of effect on stage. So now that we have those two selected, and we make sure our middle is no longer selected. So we're not changing our middle now. We click home. We've got those two selected. Click color again. And so we left off on effects, and now we're back at the effects. So let's do, let's see, we've got some pinks. Let's click a blue. And to go with that, let's try this red flick. And so what that's going to do is kind of alternate kind of to a red and blue color. Let's drop it to a different one. That kind of meshes it more with what our middle lights look like. So we'll do that, and we'll also drop our speed down because I want it to be subtle. Right, so it's kind of changey, okay? So we've got that there, and we look at it, and we're like, that's good. So now I'll go ahead and declick these guys, make them not green. We want our cross light on, and that would be number 4. We'll turn him all the way up. The lights we have currently on the cross, we probably need to, I think there's a defect in them. So you'll notice kind of half of the white is having an issue. And I think that's a defect in one of the strands of tape LEDs that we have on the cross that we need to get some warranty service on. But let's go and we'll click a random LED color here, and we'll kind of play with it. Let's do that, and we'll make it, no, let's do the flick. I like it to be more of a, there we go. So we'll give it that color and blue. So that'll be nice and vibrant. It'll change, and so now it's changing pretty quickly. When it does change, we don't want it necessarily to do that. Let's pull it down just a little bit so it's a little more of a kind of gradual. There we go. Nice and gradual, kind of a bounce light, and we can kind of change a color there. Let's do, yeah, you'll do. So we'll go with that, and that'll kind of give us that nice little bounce kind of a look there. And then the last light for our welcome stack is our house lights. We'll turn them all the way up. Now, we've got our lights set, so we want to record our lights. So we press record, and we click on Q stack, And so now we've recorded that set of lights to our cue stack. We can give it a name here. Welcome, and we'll actually do welcome B because we already have a welcome in there. So hit rename, and now they're saved in here in our stack. Now the next thing we want to change is click on here and add a fade timer. So 5 seconds is kind of my standard. Hit OK, and so that's done. And then say we want to change the position, because right now I put it at the bottom of our numbers. So we can go in here and click here, and we can delete and say we want that to be before that welcome. So we could make it 1.5, 1.2. We could delete that one, but we'll name it 0.5 and hit close. And so now it'll jump it over here in front of this other one. So we can go ahead and we can either use these same lights and start adjusting for our next cue, or we can completely hit this clear button. We'll hit home, we'll hit clear. That'll close all of our lights down that we've changed. Pull our sliders down, hit clear, and now we're looking at that. So, but if we look at our cue stack, we can see what we've already done. So now we go ahead and bring the cue stack up, raise this thing, and we will see the lights we just created on stage. That's hilarious. It did not even save the lights correctly. Let's see. Yeah, they are. Okay. Sometimes the board's quirky. It went to the other welcome ones first, right? But that is the light set we just created and saved in there as a cue. And so now you could later go in here and you could go in here and click on this one. You could do move, rename, delete. So like this old welcome lights, we're going to hit delete. Are you sure you want to remove cue? Remove. And so our old welcome is gone, our new welcome is there. And so once we get through all of these lights that preach, we get all the way down here. That's just going to speed through them. And if you go, it'll just cycle back to the top and start over again. So that's how you set up a cue, and you want to do that for each one of your different scenes throughout the church, which is your announcements, welcome, announcements, hymns, contemporary, preaching, and invitation, and any other you want to create along the way. And that's the basics of it.